Okay, welcome everybody. We are raring to go, and I am very excited to bring you this program. And it's great to see all of you on the different platforms. So hopefully, this is a short program here, and we want to go ahead and welcome all of you. But we want to talk about this. This is such an important topic, so we're going to try to keep this as concise as possible to be able to do this in a reasonable way here. But here are the three mistakes that injectors make that results in fines, in loss of license, suspension of license, whether you are a dentist, physician, nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant. This applies to you. Why are we tackling this topic now? The reason we're tackling this topic right now is because with the explosion, and it literally is an explosion of injectables, and now so many people coming in to the injectables who, all those healthcare professionals I mentioned, dentists, physicians, nurse practitioner, PA, that are coming into this, we are seeing more complaints from patients and more complaints to licensing boards, and the licensing boards come to the AAFE, the American Academy of Facial Aesthetics, because we have been a resource for medical, dental, nursing licensing boards for a decade or more at this point in time. So we get these things and we see this every single week. So let us try to protect you as a professional, whether you're getting into injectables, already have added it to your practice, or you're doing it a lot. Doesn't matter. What is your risk of doing this if a licensing board comes, or if the FDA comes and knocks on your door? So that's what we're going to tackle. Feel free to go ahead and ask questions by email. And you can email me at drlewis@facialaesthetics.org. You can see the top there. My name is Dr. Louis Maltzmacher, president of the American Academy of Facial Aesthetics, and I am a clinician, and I certainly treat patients as well, and in our AAFE training centers, and also in my offices here. And AAFE, here's a bunch of things. Take a picture of this if you want, and these are a great, a bunch of resources for you. Info at Facial Aesthetics if you want information about the live patient certification, CME certification training. AAFEtraining.com is their tuition deals, virtual, AAFE virtual. They've got a virtual program. I'll touch on some of this as we go through this quickly. StatDDS.com is where we get the entire ComfortX line of products for delivering injectables. vSoft Lift is the PDO thread that we use, and you will see why. And we'll see that's a huge problem right now in the injectable world in terms of real PDO threads that are FDA approved. We'll get to that. avwebinars.com. We've got one coming up every single week practically. So go there and see what we've got, a mix of free and paid online trainings, and AAFElegal.com for the legal summaries that the AAFE's got for every single state that's out there. But one important thing that is on everybody's mind is the COVID vaccine and fillers. If there is a problem, and the AAFE has got a huge survey going on, and we've got over 800 responses so far from people like yourselves who are injectors. And if you want to fill this out, whether you've had a patient that's had a reaction, patient has had fillers and they got a COVID vaccine, did they have a reaction? Or if you haven't seen a patient that has a reaction, please go to that domain name bit.ly/filler COVID survey and fill it out. The more responses we get, the better information we will get. I will share with you the information. It's literally a 1-minute survey. I will share with you that information towards the end of this before we click off. And over 800 responses, and it's an eye-opener. I'll also give you the AAFE recommendations of how do we treat patients when people are getting vaccines, and our recommendations coming up. So let's get into this. Again, the reason that we're talking about this is purely because the AAFE gets weekly, and I can tell you at least 3-4 times a week from across the United States, medical, dental, nursing, and many Canadian licensing boards as well, and FDA, OSHA, other government agencies. All of you are under these different agencies, and the AAFE is a resource when it comes to injectables and what is proper and what, how, what is standard of care. So we would deal with these licensing boards constantly. So we're going to show you the three biggest mistakes, but important for you to really understand what do these government agencies and licensing boards do for you, whether you're medical, dental, or nursing. They regulate your license. They enforce the Practice Act. Every profession, healthcare profession, has got its own Practice Act. That's what they've got to enforce. They go by protecting the public. Certainly, that is their big mission there. And they're a mix of physicians, nurses, dentists, depending on the board, plus public officials, non-healthcare professionals as well around there. They make sure you're practicing within your scope of practice, and you've got it. It's up to you to know your scope of practice, no matter what kind of healthcare professional you are. They ensure that you have the proper training and certification and licensing and graduate from a reputable program and all those different kinds of things. That's going to be an important one. They also ensure that you are using FDA approved pharmaceuticals. This is again more towards general medicine, nursing, or dentistry, but certainly this is really important when it comes to injectables and aesthetic medicine and facial aesthetic dentistry as well. And they also have a standard for education. We worked with these boards again for the past 10 years, and injectables education standard, yes, there is a real standard that we've worked on with many of these boards, is 10 hours of CME or dental CE real certification training, a real curriculum that must include some live patient training for each injectable. So yeah, all these things have been in place for a long time. So with that as the premise here, and this is what they do, they if there is, well, this is usually how it goes. Why are they knocking on your door? Why would you ever get a knock on your door from a regulatory agency? You're a dentist, a nurse, a physician. You've got a dental office, a medical office, a medical spa, whatever kind of office, aesthetic office. Why would they be knocking on your door? They would be knocking on your door primarily because there has been a complaint of some kind. Now, many times it is a patient complaint, fair or unfair, it doesn't matter. Patients can report anybody to a licensing board, and once they get a complaint, they have got to come and investigate that complaint. That is the law, and that's what they do. Now, it may not just be a patient complaint. It could be a competitor's complaint. It could be, one physician going after another physician, or a physician going after a nurse saying, why is this nurse injecting Botox? They may not know that you're allowed to do that for that, but it doesn't matter. They can complain, and in many states, these can be anonymous complaints. So certainly, unfortunately, they're fair or unfair, you may get a complaint. Many times fair or unfair from a patient, they're mad because they don't want to pay their bill, so they call the licensing board, right? So either way, and then now, if you've done nothing wrong and everything is good, then not much will happen with that investigation. It'll go pretty rapidly. Certainly, you should not be just opening your doors to any investigator. There is a proper protocol that you should think about there too, which we'll probably cover another time for that. But what are the three biggest mistakes that happen in injectables? So again, whether you're a dentist, physician, nurse practitioner, or a PA, the first things that these licensing boards will come after you for, and that's what we're going to cover right now. First mistake is you have not had real CME certification training. I talked about an education standard of 10 hours, including live patient training per injectable. That means per Botox, per fillers, per PDO threads. And what that means is these are real pharmaceuticals. And I think, I think most injectors try to be responsible, but many people still treat this as if it's one big Botox party, especially people who are training. So many people just figured, if I know how to do this, I can train anybody. But there's a real standard of training. First of all, in medicine and nursing, it's having real CME attached to it and a real curriculum, 10 hours, real certification training. This is something I talk about all the time. And, unfortunately, a lot of people get caught. In dentistry, it will be, dental continuing education, ADA CERP, AGD PACE, whatever the case may be. But you've got to have that. You can't just learn it from Sally down the street. What are some examples? Now, again, there's a patient complaint or a competitor complaint, right? And the first thing the licensing board will ask you for is, what is your proof of training that you have been trained, adequate training in the procedures that you offer? And here we're talking about Botox, fillers, and pedio threads. Botulinum toxin, but we'll just call it Botox for short here. And if you say, well, I saw somebody on Instagram, and I get these all the time. I mean, licensing boards will send me, I'll show you a couple other certificates, not necessarily from licensing boards, but they get these, from a dentist or a nurse or a physician that's been trained, and they laugh their heads off because it's ridiculous, some of the stuff that they're getting here. What happens if you don't have this? Well, here are a couple of recent examples. A dentist had a $5,000 fine and practice limited to certain services for 1 year with a requirement for remedial training, and they send them to the AAFE for real certification training. If they ever want to offer injectables again, they have to come to us for remedial training. This dentist, this one case, and I can dozens of cases, not just dentists, but healthcare professionals. This dentist had taken a 1-day Botox and fillers combined course. Again, 1 day, that's a lecture, that's hands-on. How in the world can you get that done in 1 day? And the dentist unfortunately had numerous poor results. Patient complaint. They said, where's your training certificate? And they said, this is nothing. I mean, it's no wonder that you're having all kinds of bad results. Unfortunately, and well, the second case I wanted to share, which was recently, nurse practitioner had a $7,500 fine and not allowed to do aesthetic services for 6 months, and must show proof of certification training before future injections again. Again, took a very poor course, something that just did not fulfill any requirement. Took a course from somebody she met on Instagram. Not that it was necessarily bad training, but if you're not real CME, that means that it's completely, it's going to be it could be completely biased with either a certain injectable, number one, or it's a very narrow, just based on whoever taught you their training, whatever that may be. My question is why do some healthcare professionals take advantage of other healthcare professionals and put your license at risk, and advertise on social media that, yeah, come to our training. Do you offer CME? No. Who are you? Well, I'm just a person that has an office, but I've got a great personality and a big following on Instagram. Why are they taking advantage of you, and you're at risk? Now you go to, your certification board comes to you, your licensing board comes to you. They don't care about who trained you. They just care about, show me proof. And if you can't, this is what happens. And here are a couple, these, circulate, people post these probably online, that blocked out a lot of the information. Some of these, what are they? The one says Thread Lift Master in the corner there. It's not a CME program. It's not a real curriculum or anything. It's just an individual trainer that likes to train. Another one is, certificate in advanced pedio thread lift. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, right? And we've got to stop. You've got to stop taking training from, the king of this, the queen of this, right? This expert injector, right? This injector master, right? People use all kinds of names, which is great for their ego on Instagram, and unfortunately, a lot of you get sucked into it. Not that they're bad people, not that they're not good trainers, but when they're training on their own, that's not a real CME program. And if you get caught, you show them one of these certificates or something like this. Yeah, literally the licensing board is going to laugh at you. Now, there's another one, aesthetic training by, Sally. I won't say who the name is. These are all blocked out. Certifies this person in advanced injectables. What does that mean? How many hours? Is there a curriculum? Is there CME? No. Well, good to know that the actual teacher is a certified aesthetic instructor, but that doesn't mean that they can certify you to anything. If you don't have CME certification training and you have a patient complaint or a competitor complaint, you're pretty much dead in the water, and you're going to have to negotiate a settlement that's going to cost you fines and time, possible suspension of license. It happens every week. We get these cases in the AAFE. Number 2 big mistake. This is a huge mistake. Using non-FDA or gray market injectables. What's a gray market injectables? A Canadian pharmacy, a Mexican pharmacy, an American company just like this that you see on the right side of your screen that contacted me through I think Instagram or Facebook, and and they had all these. They're not a certified distributor or manufacturer distributor, but they had all the Juvederms from Europe, that they were selling in the United States. That's called gray market. They may be good injectables, they may not be. They're not FDA approved because they did not come in through official channels, and they're not even offered in this country, some of this. And I asked them, is it legal to buy these in the US? And they say, yes, we sell a lot of products every day. Well, it doesn't make it legal just because they said so. And I wrote back, we could lose our license if we buy unauthorized products. Don't worry about it. You could save your money. Yeah. How much is your license worth to you? I ask you, how many years, how much money did you put into your license? How much is it worth to you? Is it worth saving a few dollars to use a non-FDA or gray market injectable? I would tell you absolutely not. You put your license, your livelihood, your patients, because these could be harmful products, your team, your family at risk. Why? And here are a couple of examples. One physician, $50,000 fine and license suspension, total license suspension for 1 year, no jail time. They did get 1 year probation and community service. A nurse that brought in a lot of, and there's lots of these cases. A lot of these cases, they happen every day. She got a $180,000 fine from the from the licensing board, and I don't remember. Total, it was about $300,000. $108,000 fine might have been from the FDA, $120,000 from the licensing board. She lost her license, 2 years jail time. Now, she served 13 months. Is that worth it for you? No, absolutely not. You are responsible. You're the healthcare professional, dentist, nurse, physician, nurse practitioner, PA. You're responsible for knowing what injectables you're using and what you're putting into people's faces. And this is a huge problem when it comes to PDO threads. And the truth about PDO threads is frightening because even though it's been around for a few years now, but it's a little newer. But this is an area that people get fooled. You as professionals and clinicians get fooled every single day. What you need is you need a FDA cleared class 2, and that is what you need. Hang on just a second here. I gotta make a little adjustment. Hang on there for me just a second. Okay, here we go. You need an FDA cleared class 2 device, and that is a PDO thread. Now, on the U.S. market, here's the frightening part. The frightening part on the U.S. market is that there are only about 3, maybe 4 companies that have real FDA cleared class 2 clearance for PDO threads, but yet there are 15 companies on the U.S. market. Well, how in the world does that work? That's not very good, is it? And many healthcare professionals buy these class 1. Class 1 is all it means if it's class 1. And some of these PDO threads companies will tell you, oh, it's a class 1 FDA cleared device. No, it's not. Class 1 simply means that a company has paid the FDA a $4,000, $5,000 fee to go ahead and pay the FDA a $4,000 to $5,000 fee to list their products on the FDA website. That's all it means. Doesn't mean anything else. Class 2 means there's a real 510K. I won't bore you or nerd out with all the details, but just like botulinum toxin, which is pharmaceutical, but just like any other medical device, you need real FDA cleared class 2. and proper packaging. But the FDA has packaging requirements so that you know that this is the right thing that should be in this package. You should never use a blank dermal filler, neurotoxin, PDO thread for that. And there, I'll show you examples of packaging, certainly certification training we talked about. But the problem is that PDO threads in the U.S. will directly lie to you, and their representatives will lie to you and tell you that they don't need FDA Class 2, they applied for it, they can sell it while they applied for it. No, they can't. It's your license at risk. If there's a patient complaint and they check, number one, do you have certification training, real CME? Number two, what was used on the patient? Oh, well, when it came to PDO threads or neurotoxin or dermal fillers, this is what I used. This is the source that I got it from. You are finished. I mean, literally finished if it is a non-FDA cleared Class 2 device. And unfortunately, and I don't care that the medical director of a PDO thread company is a plastic surgeon. You know, I'm a baby boomer. I've been around for a while, and I can tell you that very smart people get either blinded by money or they get fooled every single day. There's another PDO thread company that is not FDA cleared Class 2 that, has got very flashy advertising, and they've got a whole medical advisory board of dermatologists and plastic surgeons, all good people, but they get fooled too. I mean, they tell them the same lies that, yeah, no, you don't need FDA cleared Class 2. This is your responsibility, and you don't even know what you're putting in to the patients. That's the patient's really at risk there as well. Also, if a PDO thread company uses non-medical professionals for training, you should run the other way, and a couple of them do. Even if they say that they have a FDA cleared Class 2, if they're using non-medical professionals who are actually, and many times, touching patients there too, this is your life is on the line, literally, for all of that. So I prepared a little video for you just to really bring this point home and make this point clear. Here you go. Here is a short video to show you how you can protect your patients and your license by using FDA approved and FDA cleared Class 2 pharmaceuticals and medical devices. So let's take a look. Here is what looks like a regular Botox cosmetic package, and this is the proper packaging. You know it's an FDA approved product. And let's say I open it up and I take out all of the information that comes with it, quite a bit, and all of a sudden I find this bottle in here. Now take a look. This bottle, is that properly packaged? No. How would you know if this is real Botox? You wouldn't, and that's why you would never use this kind of a vial. No matter if it came in the fancy box that looked authentic, you would never use this because you don't know if this bottle really belongs in this box here, and that's really crucial. Never use something like that. Make sure you throw it out. This is what that bottle should really look like, as most of you know here. Let's take a look at a Juvederm Ultra Plus box. Now, that looks like an authentic box, and that looks good, but let's open it up, and all of a sudden, this is a filler tube, but it has not got proper packaging there. That's not what it should look like. So you would know that this is a phony or it's a non-approved product, and this is what the Juvederm product is going to look like. We're doing a little experiment with some Juvederm Ultra that has expired there, but that's the package that should look like. You all know that for that. Now let's take a look, because this is where so many practitioners are getting fooled, and this is a package, a foil package of a PDO thread. I won't show the name, but it is an FDA cleared Class 2 PDO thread that has a 510K, but it doesn't have the proper packaging. So even though they may file a 510K and they may seem like they're right, you pull this out of the package and there is no packaging there. That is not a product that you should ever use, in our opinion, especially if it is if it's sold like this. You don't know. Even if this was, and again, I won't show the name here, but even if this was on the FDA website as a cleared Class 2, if this is the package, you don't know the source of this package because it's not properly packaged. What should it look like? So never use this, and don't get fooled by some of the companies that are on the market. If it is not an FDA cleared Class 2, you shouldn't be using using it at all here. But let's take a look at a Vsoft line package, and this is the proper packaging that you see. And then when you pull out the threads, that's what you see. You see Vsoft line, all of the proper packaging here, as you can go ahead and see, and the lot numbers, all of those different things. This is an FDA cleared class 2 product. This is proper packaging, so you know this is the authentic product that should be used. Don't get fooled. Make sure you go ahead and protect your practice and your patients by using the right products. Don't forget that to make sure that you're using it. Again, never use a blank package. If all there is a little sticker on it, that could have been put on from anywhere. In other words, that package of PDO threads could have come from anywhere non-FDA, and then they're just trying to fool you. Never use a package like that. This is what it looks like. And again, one of the reasons we use Vsoft Lift, aside from being the strongest and producing the most collagen, and they're a real FDA cleared class 2, properly packaged, and they're the best by far. So, I mean, that's the only thing we use. This is not Vsoft Lift. This is the kind of thing you see on social media, and it's ridiculous. I would hope that any reasonable healthcare professional would look at this and say, if you've got to use this many, there is something wrong with this PDO thread, or something wrong with the person training like that, because this is just nuts. What this means to me is that you're using a very weak PDO thread. It doesn't produce a lot of collagen, and that's why you got to do this. And some of the angles here, you got to know the anatomy. We can all do a lot better than this, folks. That's for sure. It's about using the right PDO thread. So you've got to really evaluate it, because, unfortunately, even some of the FDA cleared class 2 companies, they use a crazy amount of PDO threads because their threads are so weak for lifting or for collagen building. Here is the number 3 mistake that people make, and that is 2 things: no or poor documentation, and just ignorance. So let's start with the ignorance part. Know what you can do when you cannot do. Again, everyone's got a scope of practice: physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, dentists, physician assistants. So in your state, know what you can and cannot do. Know what you can and cannot delegate. This goes to all the healthcare professionals that are out there. What oversight is needed depending on what kind of professional you are, if you're overseeing somebody, or if you need to have the oversight for that. I mean, generally, physicians and dentists do not need the oversight. They're staying within their own scope of practice. Many times, nurse practitioners need just some kind of an arrangement with a physician, but they can have independent practices in many states. Registered nurses do need some kind of an oversight, but sometimes that can be either from a physician, a dentist, a nurse practitioner, depending on the state. Physician assistant, same thing. It just depends what it is. The AAFE has a legal summary for every state available at a very reasonable price, couple $100 or whatever it is for that. You can see that at aafelegal.com. But you need to know there is no such thing as ignorance. If your licensing board comes knocking on your door, you cannot claim ignorance, because you are supposed to know your scope of practice. It's pretty much that simple for that. And the number 3 huge mistake is no or poor documentation. No matter what kind of healthcare professional you are, but I can tell you that dentists, you are the absolute worst. I'm a dentist too. You are the absolute worst at documentation for this. Every investigation ultimately hinges on your documentation. So learn to document correctly. Use it. You've got to have a real diagnosis, and that's what ICD-10 codes are for. If you don't know what ICD-10 codes are for, then you may very well be a dentist. Number 1, and number 2, you have not been AAFE certification trained, because yes, we use the ICD-10 codes, or you need a real diagnosis on the patient to put you within your scope of practice. Then you document your treatment and your dosages and syringes or your PDO threads or whatever you're using. And again, the AAFE's got treatment sheets that we use in our training that our AAFE members use in their offices every single day. once you've documented or not documented, okay, never go back and try to falsify documentation. Never add things. Never. You're just finished. I mean, your case is so far behind. Ask any attorney if you try to falsify documentation or change it after the fact. Just let it be and you'll deal with it. If you try to change it, then your whole case takes on a whole different flavor with any kind of a licensing board or investigation for that. And just one example of this, dentists lack documentation. I mean, literally, this dentist wrote, Botox given. I mean, that's what they did. $2,500 fine, patient complaint, that's what triggered this, and remedial CME certification training required before any other injectable treatment. I mean, those are the three big mistakes. No CME certification training. You're far behind on your investigation in your case to start with. You use a gray market or a non-FDA approved thing, and this is becoming a huge problem with PDO threads. So you got to make sure you're using an FDA cleared class 2 product only. Don't get fooled. And then the number 3 mistake is you've got to have good documentation, including a diagnosis. Why am I doing this? And ICD-10 codes are the best way to do a diagnosis, and they make them either for aesthetics or therapeutics. It doesn't matter. Certainly there is you've got that available there too. So let's go to the COVID, our COVID recommendations here as well. Now, here is what we've got on their COVID survey with the AAFE, and this is about 800 respondents, and here's what we've got here. So 11%, this is much higher than we knew before. 11% have had a patient with a filler reaction after a COVID vaccine. And the whole point of this survey is to go ahead and then just give us some ideas of how should we be approaching, now that everyone's getting vaccinated, how should we be approaching this in terms of treatment progression in our offices. Now, if 11% of them are having a reaction with that, you can see the reactions. 50% are having swelling, 19% redness. It can be a combination of all these, by the way, as well. Itching, 16%, pain, 15%. Which vaccines? Moderna is number one. 51% of these survey respondents reported that the patient had the Moderna vaccine, but it may surprise you to know that 31% with Pfizer. Now, this is not new, by the way. Flu vaccines have caused reactions in fillers before. Nobody knew or nobody cared, to be honest, or not. No one really, we haven't had a major vaccine like this, vaccination attempt like this in a long time, and certainly COVID had got everybody's attention. We're starting to see some filler reaction with J&J, which is just hitting the market pretty much for all of that. The nice thing is, if there is a sunshine behind the clouds, is that these do typically go ahead and resolve on their own. Sometimes they do need a little help, but most of them, the duration is 1 to 5 days. 5 to 10 days is 13%, but 15% is 10 plus days. So they could be living with this for a little bit. And certainly there's long COVID syndrome that's happening too. So let's get to the AAFE recommendations based on this. And this is based on 800 respondents, and we got to keep it going. So please look at the top there, bit.ly, that's a bit.ly link, /filler COVID survey. Whether you've had a patient that's had a reaction or not, please go ahead and fill that out, and we'll have, the more information we get, the better we are. We have not seen delayed onset nodules, have not been reported. If you're going to treat antihistamines, this is what's been reported. Antihistamines, antibiotics, pretty rare. Medrol dose pack, which is just dexamethasone or something like that, or methylprednisone in this case. Anti-inflammatory meds of your choice. There is some in the literature of some suggested ACE inhibitors. I don't know that you have to go quite that far just yet on most patients. It's going to resolve pretty well on its own. Only use medications that you know how to prescribe. And really, here are the AAFE COVID vaccine injectables treatment recommendations that have been taken up by a lot of different people and a lot of different organizations now at this point. First of all, in your medical history, you should be asking every patient what their prior experience has been with any previous vaccine. Flu vaccine, as they get older, they get the pneumonia vaccine, shingles vaccine, just to gauge their vaccine response and then adjust accordingly. Botox, botulinum toxin, dermal filler, PDO threads at least 2 weeks before their first vaccine injection. In other words, they come in and they're getting injected a vaccine first or second shot the next day or a week from now or within 2 weeks. I'm going to put off their appointment till after both vaccine injections. And same thing on the other end. After the second vaccine injection, at least 2 weeks afterwards for that. No injectables during the vaccine appointments. Ultimately, you are the clinician, you are the provider, you make the determination. I know that patients beg all the time for different things. For that, you mean ultimately, at least you can give them the best information, have them sign an informed consent if you absolutely are going to go ahead, and do something other than these recommendations. But that's what they are. But they're pretty strong recommendations, and this has served everyone very well. And as we have more information based on this survey, the more we have, the more we will keep reporting to all of you for that. So, and this is going to be another, thing. I'm sure we're going to get some, some people reported to either they'll get sued or reported to their licensing board that, they didn't protect me during the vaccine. They didn't tell me, they didn't ask me if I was getting a vaccine. That'll be coming one of these days. So better safe than sorry on your end there as well. So with all that, thank you for this program. Again, here's all the information and here's good research sources for all of you. My email, drlewis@facialesthetics.org. If you want, certainly follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where we post constant clinical content, especially on our stories and in feed and all those things. If you want the AAFE, info@facialesthetics.org, or just go to facialesthetics.org. But all of those things, AAFEtraining.com for the best tuition training, live patient certification CME training. For that, AAFE Virtual, the only CME certification course on smooth PDO threads. Oh my gosh, you have got to add that to your practice. If you've been doing neurotoxins and fillers for even a little bit, this is a great thing to add immediately because you already have some of the skills that you need. And it's the only virtual CME certification course of its kind. We're done over Zoom. You don't have to leave your home or office, which is nice these days. And literally the next day, you'll be able to start doing this. StatTDS.com, the whole ComfortTox line, which is what we use in the AAFE for training and in our own AAFE training centers, med spas, and offices. VSoft Lift, that's the name of the PDO thread we use, FDA cleared class 2, the strongest lifting thread by far of anything on the U.S. market, and the most collagen production on anything on the smooth PDO market as well. We've tested them all, and that's what we use in our training. AAFEwebinars.com, constantly check that. We got great stuff coming up. And AAFElegal.com for those legal summaries for the state. Very reasonable cost. Much less than other associations that are out there, and much more accurate, and they will cover all healthcare professionals. So the other associations don't cover dentists and don't really adequately cover some of the other ones, in our opinion, for that. So avlegal.com for the legal summaries. If you're a physician, nurse practitioner, PA, dentist, you need to know exactly what you can or cannot do. What kind of corporation can you own? How can you delegate? Who can you delegate to? What kind of oversight you need? It's all there for that as well. So lots of resources in the AAFE. Thank you so much for being part of this program. And let me just see if there are any quick questions here. Yeah, we cover that. We can go to that, and yeah, I mean, we've got a bunch of things from some patients here that have asked questions that are watching on here, saying, I went to this nurse or nurse practitioner, and this is the PDO thread, and I knew it wasn't, and I found out it wasn't FDA cleared. Yeah, folks, we've got to be tighter. We've got to really know what we're using for all of that. So thanks to all of you, and join us on the webinar. Join us on this platform. We will talk to you all again real soon.